Real quick before the video starts, I want to apologize for the late upload, or I guess the lack of upload for April. I was on vacation and took a break from social media in general for a decent amount of the month, but to make up for it, I'll be uploading 2 videos this month. This one you're currently watching, and another one later in the month featuring a certain special guest.
Who is it? What?
So with all that being said, what's up guys? Khalil here. A little over a year ago, I said,
owning one of these is like owning a Honda Civic. You're a basic bitch.
But what I failed to mention was that as basic as it is, it's popular for a reason.
Okay.
It just works. Something else that's equally as basic, but also just as much works, is the Glock series of handguns. I don't think there is a single person out there knowledgeable in firearms or not that hasn't at least heard or seen of the Glock. It is truly up there as one of the most recognizable firearms. Unlike the last time I made a explained by an idiot style video, I'm actually going to be covering both the history and the functionality of how the gun works. So, to start, Glock was originally founded in 1963 by Gaston Glock. Originally an Austrian engineer, a businessman. Of course, you can't sell guns without business. You can't sell anything without business, dumbass. What are you talking about? And an injection molding parts manufacturer. On that point, Glock actually originally started by producing consumer goods like curtain rods and doorknobs. In the 1970s, however, is when they got their start in the defense industry. Because, you know, that's where all the money's at, baby. You ever heard of Lockheed Martin? A few knives, a grenade or two, and other various military equipment later, they got their start. In 1980, the Austrian Federal Army wanted something to replace the old, outdated World War II era service pistol that they currently had, which was the Walther P38. Their requirements were a self-loading pistol chambered in 9x19 NATO with a minimum magazine capacity of 17 rounds, as well as, of course, you know, basic durability and safety standards. Yeah, I'm looking at you. Oh, you fucking mess. Just 2 years later, Glock assembled a team of industry specialists with both law enforcement and military background to truly get the idea of what a combat application handgun should be. In just 3 months, Glock had already produced multiple working prototypes. And not long after that, the Glock 17 was... Now, despite what the FUD at the counter at the local gun store might tell you, the 17 in Glock 17 is not called that because it holds 17 rounds. While the standard capacity of it is 17 rounds, it's actually because that was Glock's 17th patent. Don't worry if that's like new information or you're a little confused by that. Glock's naming conventions are kind of just all over the place in that regard. The Glock 45, it must be chambered in 45 ACP, right? No, it's just a compact Glock chambered in 9mm. Glock 22, oh, that must be chambered in 22 long rifle. It's in 40 Smith & Wesson. Ew. I might be asking, what made the Glock so special? Well, because of its creation being seated in a combat application form, it had to be durable, safe, yet also ready to go at a moment's notice. You see, the Glock has 3 safeties. A trigger safety, a firing pin safety, and a drop safety. You can see the trigger safety very easily by just looking at the gun. Whoa! Now, I'm too bored to really explain the other two. I kind of want to go just play New Vegas, but I'll explain the trigger safety for you. So if you look on the outside of any typical... That looks terrible. This is in front of my face. It is not pointing at me. I know it looks like it's pointing at me, but it's not. Okay, before any of you start fucking coming at me for like gun safety reasons, this is not pointed at me, alright? It's probably should have taken that out. So if you look at the trigger of any standard Glock, you'll see that it has a trigger, and then it looks like it has a second hanger trigger. So as you can see, because the trigger safety has not been pushed down, it's not been engaged, I can't fully pull the trigger. I probably didn't need to explain all that, but why not? Yet again, Gaston Glock's experience in injection molding would come into handy as the gun was made from mostly polymer furniture and other lightweight materials. This allowed it to be functional, reliable, but also have a generally sleek, thin design. Gaston Glock's whole idea was wanting to have as little amount of parts as possible, staying true to the whole simplicity idea. as reliability resides in simplicity. I don't know who said that. Maybe he said that. I don't know. And that whole idea would end up becoming true. In 1983, the Glock was accepted by the Austrian army as their new service pistol, designated it as the Pistola. I'm sorry, I don't speak Austrian. And they bought 30,000 units of it. Wowzers! I actually wrote that in the script. Like, I wrote the word wowzers. What the fuck is wrong with me? Now, what makes this all the more impressive is that you gotta remember, during these trials, Glock was still a newcomer on the scene. They were a very new company. And they were competing against some big veterans of some real past wars. I'm over-exaggerating a little bit, but genuinely, they were a newcomer in the scene competing against already established big gun companies. Pfeiffer Stahl, H&K, Beretta, SIG, and even another Austrian native company, Steyr. So for this to not only get adopted, but then also pass NATO's durability test and end up becoming as widespread as it is, I think it kind of hurt the ego on a lot of those other companies. Just 1 year later, in 1984, Glock 17 passed the NATO durability test with flying colors. I don't know why I did that, it passed. Norway would soon follow suit, becoming the first NATO country to officially adopt it. While it had its successes in Europe, somewhere over the ocean, in Smyrna, Georgia, Glock opened its first international subsidiary, mainly handling sales and assembly for parts made in Austria. But wait, what's that? MTV, lasers, the crack epidemic. And oh my, so much more going on in this world. The Chernobyl nuclear disaster, the Challenger, damn, there was a lot of fucking explosions in 1986, huh? What do all these things have in common? Well, they all happened in 1986. What else happened in 1986? Glock was first introduced to the US civilian market. The first ads marketing their availability appeared on page 20 of the June 1986 issue of a popular magazine. The popular American firearms magazine, American Handgunner. Now, despite its many greats and attributes, the Glock didn't immediately catch on, but incidents like the 1986 Miami-Dade shootout and later on the 1997 Hollywood shootout showed both police agencies and the American people that our police were not fully equipped and did not have the arsenal to deal with proper threats. As more and more police agencies began to feel like they were outgunned and overrun by a crack-fueled crime epidemic, more of them started looking towards a replacement for the .38 and .357 revolvers currently in service. Seeing this as a
Most profitable opportunity.
Glock began marketing their firearms towards the law enforcement market. Take this next part with a grain of salt, but some of these marketing strategies included discounts, trading in previous service pistols for new Glocks, and inviting police chiefs and agency representatives to strip clubs in Atlanta. Like I said, take that with a grain of salt. Throughout the 1990s, Glock became a staple in the American law enforcement world. And by 1998, Glock dominated over 50% of the market share. Besides crack, cops, and shootouts, there's one more thing that really put the Glock into the spotlight. 80s action movies. Now you gotta remember, if a firearm appeared in a blockbuster movie, and that movie became really popular, that gun would also kind of become just as popular. Especially if it was a main character or protagonist using it. A good example of this is the Desert Eagle. It's impractical, it has no real combat or self-defense application, but it looks cool and it's fucking sick. And because it appeared in a lot of 80s and 90s media with the protagonist, usually a big buff character using it, it was kind of associated with that. Like for me, whenever I think of the AUG, my mind immediately goes to Carl from Die Hard. I mean, just look at that. That's based as fuck. Speaking of Die Hard, one of the first depictions of the Glock in popular media was actually in Die Hard 2. More specifically, in a scene that's kinda infamous, and it might have done a little bit of misconceptual damage.
That punk pulled a Glock 7 on me. You know what that is? It's a porcelain gun made in Germany. Doesn't show up on your airport x-ray machines here, and it costs more than you make in a month.
No, Bruce Willis. That's not how it works. But people at the time didn't know that, and with Glock and polymer frame pistols in general still being a relatively new concept, it definitely didn't help. Eventually though, through simplicity, reliability, and reasonable pricing, the Glock would become honestly just a worldwide staple. So, how does it work? Alright, we're gonna do this the OG way. Where's my fucking voiceover mic?
The Glock is made up of only 34 different parts. The frame, the stock... Wait, what, the stock? Listen, that's what it says on Glock's own website, so,
Put a pistol on a brace, it turns into a gun. Makes it more, you can have a higher caliber weapon, a higher caliber bullet coming out of that gun.
And the slide, naturally. When the trigger is pulled, this simultaneously pulls the firing pin backwards. Following this, a connector pin guides the connector in a downward motion. When the primer ignites, it releases a, quote, shit ton of energy that has to go somewhere. After the round leaves the barrel, the firing pin recoils and the empty cartridge is removed from the chamber. The bottom rail then strips a new cartridge from the magazine into the chamber and...
So, with that, I think you can see how the Glock not only became popular, but maybe even learned a little bit about how it works too. Bullshit, educational stuff. You just come here to see my autistic ass talk about guns, and I know it. You're not slick. But with that being said, I'd like to thank you guys for watching, and next time...
Spread ego cross the block, spread ego cross the block! I fuck the music, I make it curl. I fuck the music with my serpent.